What you're looking at is a blank Google Data Studio report canvas. Here is where we want to display some population statistics for a specific country. And I think a basic population trend would be a really good start. So let's go and click on Add a Chart, and then select Time Series, and drop it just beneath the title, and resize it so it takes up roughly a quarter of the canvas. And you'll see that Google has actually correctly guessed what we want to display in this chart, which is a trend of the total population. Excellent. We don't need to do anything further with this one. Let's click somewhere in the report canvas that is a blank space, and go and add another chart. This time, let's create another time series chart and drop it just beneath the existing one, and resize accordingly. On this occasion, Google hasn't correctly guessed what we want to display. It's showing us the internet percentage, whereas I actually want to display the mobile subscription percentage by year. This is super easy to fix. Simply go ahead and drag the mobile subscriptions and drop it here across internet percentage, and it will be replaced. Excellent. In addition to seeing the data here as time series charts, I think it would be really useful to have a summary raw number appear as a scorecard at the top of our report. So let's do it. Click somewhere on the canvas where there's a blank space, then go to Add a Chart, and on this occasion, select the first scorecard here, and then drop it just here beneath the title and resize it so it takes up roughly half of the remaining width here. Okay, you can see that we have the raw population data displaying, but this is clearly way too high. As a default, all years worth of data are being aggregated together. If we only want to display 1 year, such as say the most recent year's worth of data, this is super easy to do by applying what's called a scorecard filter. So over here, go and click on Add a Filter. You can give it a name if you like, or just click on the drop-down box next to Select a Field. Click on Year, then select the drop-down box next to Condition and select Equals to. And we need to type in something here. I'm going to select 2014 and then click on Save. And you'll see that instantaneously, the data has been updated to show only 2014. Excellent. Let's do exactly the same thing for our mobile subscription percentage. Click in a blank space, select Add a Chart, and select the scorecard once more, and let's drop it to the right of our existing scorecard and resize so that it takes up the remaining space. This number might look correct, but it's actually showing us an average across all years worth of data. So, once again, if we want to display just the most recent year's worth of data, let's apply a scorecard filter. Click on Add a Filter once more, and the filter that we just created before is available to use. We don't need to recreate it. Simply click on Year Filter, and the data has been updated automatically. Excellent work. Things are looking more accurate now. Finally, let's go ahead and add a geo map, because once we eventually have a country filter being applied on this report, it's going to make things look really, really cool. There are quite a few options that we can choose from, but the one I prefer to work with is the geo chart here. I find that it's the most responsive. Let's go and position it just beneath the scorecard, and make sure that it takes up the remaining space in our canvas. Once again, let's go ahead and select a scorecard filter and use the one that has already been created, which is 2014. And the last thing we're going to do is remove the legend, as I don't think it adds much value in this case, especially once we select an individual country. Simply click on Style here, and then deselect Show Legend. Awesome. Things are really starting to take shape now. Telling meaningful stories with data has never been more exciting. Google Data Studio is Google's very own analytics hub, and it's easy to see why it continues to grow in popularity. It's fun, easy to use, and brings life to data in a way that's unrivaled. And the best part is, you don't need to be a developer to produce beautiful dashboards. In this course, I'll step you through the basics, including how to get started with Google Data Studio. We'll then step through how to get data and then shape it to your liking. Next, we'll work together on building Google Data Studio reports, including the generation of some powerful charts. We'll then explore how to collaborate with stakeholders, as there really is no substitute for cooperative development. Finally, we'll touch on some of the more advanced aspects of Google Data Studio, getting even more from your experience. Before we get too excited with producing cool interactive charts, there's some important foundations that we need to cover off. First and foremost, how to access Google Data Studio. You see, whilst Google Data Studio is free, you must have an active Google account to use it. So before proceeding any further, let's make sure that you can access Google Data Studio. In your web browser, go ahead and type datastudio.google.com and make sure that you can log in OK. If you're already logged into your Google account, your screen will look something like this. If not, you'll be prompted to enter your Google account login credentials. Just make sure that you're able to get to this screen before moving on. Okay, you'll notice that the Google Data Studio home screen looks rather neat and uncluttered. We have templates at the top, and we have recently used files down below. Now, in my experience, templates are a fun way of exploring the capabilities of Google Data Studio, but in practice I find that it's far better to work with data as a starting point, and we'll come back to this later on. But by now, you should be feeling pretty comfortable with how to access Google Data Studio and be ready to follow along with me. You're probably itching to produce interactive charts, but let's pause for a moment and understand the Google Data Studio interface. From the Google Data Studio home screen, let's go ahead and click on Blank Report, or if you like, click on Create and then Report. It does the same thing. At this stage, you'll be prompted to connect with some data, and we will come back to this later on, but for now, I just want to explain how the Google Data Studio interface looks. So just go ahead and click on the X towards the top right-hand side of the screen, and you're now looking at the Google Data Studio reporting canvas. This is where we'll be creating and enhancing our visuals. There are menus at the very top. This allows us to apply different features to our Google Data Studio report. You'll notice that most of these are greyed out at the moment because we don't have any data to work with. The View button towards the top right-hand side of the screen enables us to see how our report will look to other users. Let's go ahead and click on it. You'll see at the moment it's looking pretty barren, and that's just because we haven't connected with any data. We're just about to dive into this, but by now you should be feeling pretty comfortable with the Google Data Studio layout. The backbone of every Google Data Studio project is data. Without it, we don't really have a story to tell. Google Data Studio makes connecting with data really easy. All we need to do is click on Add Data. Now, at last count, Google Data Studio supported over 20 native data connectors and close to 500 partner connectors. So there's a huge amount of choice, way too many to explain in this course. But at a high level, this includes a combination of static files, such as CSV or Google Sheets files, on-premises databases, and online data services. Now, as an experienced online educator, I would usually suggest working with static data, such as CSV files, because this mitigates the risk of confusion with any changes to online data or live data feeds. But to get the most value from this course, and of course Google's integrated data connectors that you can see here, we'll actually be using one of the hosted sample datasets, which appears here under My Data Sources. Okay, ready to connect with rich Google data? Let's get into it. Whilst we'll mostly be working with a sample Google dataset for this course, I do want to briefly cover how to connect with static data. Let's go ahead and click on Add Data, and then select File Upload from the options listed below. Next, click on the button that says Click to Upload Files, and then find the file called salesdata.csv. This will be in your exercise file pack. Select the file and then click Open. Google will now upload and process the file. You'll need to be patient as this step may take a little while. Success will be denoted by a green icon in the status column and the word uploaded to the right-hand side of it. Now I should add, only CSV files that have been prepared in UTF-8 format can be uploaded into Google Data Studio. Most applications will export data in this format as a default. However, if you're looking for more information about uploading standalone data into Google Data Studio, I suggest you check out the following link. Okay, make sure that you now click on Add, and then select Add to Report. And just like magic, Google has connected with the sales data CSV that we just uploaded, and it's also prepared a sample table for us. Feel free to play around with this data, but note that we're not actually going to use it for this course. I really just wanted to show you how to connect with standalone data. So let's actually go ahead and delete this table, and then click on Add Data once more. Now go ahead and select My Data Sources, and you're looking for the file called World Population Data 2005 to 2014. Now, I've chosen this sample dataset because of all the ones available, it was the least overwhelming in terms of the number of fields and records. Some of the sample data available contained literally hundreds of different fields, which I felt would be way too much for this course. So with that file selected, let's go ahead and click on Add, and then select Add to Report. And once again, Google Data Studio has connected with the source data and also prepared a sample table for us. I wouldn't pay too much attention to this table as it's aggregating multiple years together. In fact, let's actually go ahead and delete this table just to avoid any confusion. Now, Google Data Studio automatically saves analytics projects. However, at this point, I suggest renaming your work to something a little bit more meaningful. I'm just going to call mine Population Analysis. It really doesn't matter what you call your project, just make sure that you can find it later on. Once Google Data Studio has been connected with data, it can be a little bit difficult to tell what's going on. So what I recommend before doing anything else is to create a basic visual. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see a list of fields from the sample world population data that we've connected with. Now, I'm thinking that a column chart might be a really good place to start. So, let's go ahead and select Add a Chart, and then click on the bar chart here, and position it towards the top left-hand side of the screen. Okay, Google Data Studio has actually had a go at guessing what fields that we might like to see in this visualization. On this occasion, they've only partially got it correct. I actually want to see the year as my x-axis rather than country. This is really easy to fix. Let's just go ahead and drag the year field from the fields list and drop it over country. this will replace it. At this point, we may actually need to change the sort order in our chart to be ascending by year. Let's click on Sort just above the chart, click on Year, and you may need to click on it once more to have the chart presenting the data in ascending order. That's a great start. We can now see the world's population trend between 2005 and 2014. But how about we add in another metric, say mobile subscriptions? Simply drag the field mobile subscriptions from the available fields on the right-hand side and drop it below population. Brilliant. We can now see the world's population trend alongside the number of mobile phone subscriptions for each year. Once again, you may need to change the sort order to be ascending by year. This is just a little quirk of Google Data Studio, which is hopefully addressed at some stage down the track. Now, there's certainly a ton more that we can do here, but I did just want to get you comfortable with the principles of creating Google Data Studio visualizations first, before we start tackling some of the more advanced features. Great work. Google Data Studio is packed full of modelling tools. Modelling tools are essentially functions and features that enhance the interface or usability of your charts. Google Data Studio refers to these as controls, and you'll find them here under Add a Control. And you'll see that we have quite a few to choose from, but to get started with, how about we select a drop-down list? And I'm going to apply it just towards the top right-hand side of the chart and resize it so it neatly fits within the chart dimensions. This control essentially allows us to apply a filter to the data that sits behind the chart. Now, when you add a drop-down list in Google Data Studio, it tries to guess the field that we want to filter on. Now, on this occasion, Google hasn't guessed correctly. I actually want the country filter to be applied instead of the year field. This is really easy to change. Simply drag the country field and drop it over year beneath the control field text. Excellent. Now, as a default, this country filter will be automatically linked to any new charts that you add to your report canvas. Now, this is great for report level filters, but not chart level ones such as this. So before we continue, we need to do something. We need to select both the drop-down list and also the chart. Start by selecting the drop-down list, hold down the control button on your keyboard, and then left-click the chart. You may need to do this twice. Now, from the Arrange menu at the top of the screen, simply click on Group. And this filter will now only be applied to the first chart. We'll test this out in a moment. But for now, let's go ahead and click in a blank space somewhere in the reporting canvas. It doesn't matter where. And let's go create another chart, say a pie chart. And let's position it just beneath the existing chart, and then resize it so it aligns with the dimensions of the first chart. Now, on this occasion, Google has predicted that we want year as the dimension, but it's actually country that we want. This is really easy to change. Simply go ahead and drag country, and then drop it over year. Great work. You'll also notice that Google has pre-populated mobile subscriptions as the metric. It's actually the population field that we want. So from the right-hand side, simply drag population and drop it over the metric that currently says mobile subscriptions, and the data will automatically be updated in the chart. Okay, let's now go ahead and add another control. Once again, another drop-down list. Let's resize it so it fits within the chart dimensions. And just make sure that year has been selected as the control field. This should happen automatically, but if not, just go ahead and change it. Once again, make sure that you select both the drop-down list and also the pie chart by holding Control on the keyboard and then left-clicking. Go to the Arrange menu once more and select Group. And now, the year filter in the second chart will only be applied to the pie chart rather than all charts on the canvas. So, let's go ahead and put it to the test. Let's go to View mode. From the country drop-down box next to the first chart, let's go ahead and select, say, Japan. And you'll notice that the first chart has updated, but not the second one. And this is exactly what we wanted to see happen. But let's try the same thing with the pie chart. Click on the drop-down box next to Year, and then select, say, 2014. And you'll see that the second chart has updated, but not the first one. This is exactly what we wanted to see happen. I strongly suggest that you take the time to get this right at the outset, as it will save you heaps of effort down the track. Sometimes when working with data, there's a particular lens or view you're seeking that just doesn't exist in your source data. For example, if you look at the pie chart here that has a year filter, you'll notice that the 9 largest countries are displayed, with the rest grouped under Others. In fact, in the year 2014, nearly 43% of the world's population fell into this category Other. Now, we could always try and display every country in this pie chart, but with 215 countries in our source data, I don't think this is going to help a huge amount. So, if we were to update this pie chart to show the data grouped as continents instead of country, I think this would look a lot more insightful. However, if we take a look at the available fields on the right-hand side, we don't have a continent field. This is where blend data comes to the fore. It just so happens that I have a separate dataset that maps countries to continents, and in fact, you have access to this also in your exercise file pack. Blend data enables us to merge this with our existing population data. So let's go ahead and do it. First, we need to import the mapping data. To do this, click on the Resource menu, and then select Manage Added Data Sources. Next, click on Add a Data Source. Then click on File Upload. Next, select Click to Upload Files. And then find the file called countries_continents from your exercise file pack. Then click on Open. And Google will now process the file. Once complete, you'll see a green status icon appear over on the right-hand side. Now go ahead and click on Add, and then select Add to Report. Google Data Studio has now connected with the new source data. What we now need to do is create a blend. I find the easiest way to do this is to select the chart that we wish to enhance. On this occasion, it's the pie chart. You may actually need to click on it twice to bring up the option that we need. And next, go ahead and click on Blend Data. Now, this screen may seem a little bit overwhelming, but let me guide you through it step by step. Go ahead and click on Join Another Table, and then select the one that we just imported, which is called Countries_Continents. The next step is to configure the join. Now, this may look a little bit overwhelming, but let me step you through it. It's really important that we get this correct, otherwise the blend won't work properly. The one that we want to choose is Left Outer. So let's go ahead and select it, and you'll notice that Google has automatically detected the link between the country fields, which appears in both tables. This is excellent. Now go ahead and click on Save. Now, before we continue, we just need to make sure that in the population data on the left-hand side, we include the country field, the year field and also the population field, which has automatically been populated here, which is excellent. And from the countries continents table, we just need to make sure that we add the continent field as a dimension in this table. I'm just dragging and dropping. Excellent. Now go ahead and click on Save. And we're almost there. You'll need to ignore the system error that appears in the table. There's just a couple of steps that we need to perform to get this pie chart looking the way that we want. The dimension that we actually want to see here isn't country, it's the continent one that we just imported. So let's go ahead and click on country and select continent, which appears in table 2. And in the metric section, change the year metric to population. Now let's go ahead and click on view mode and put this report to the test. You'll notice that the continents now appear in our pie chart, making this data much more insightful. By now, you should be feeling pretty comfortable with the basics of data and visualizations using Google Data Studio. But before we get too carried away with further building reports and visualizations, let's put a bit of work into our report design, as this will set you up for success. Feel free to follow along with me. The first thing is a report title. We absolutely need one. Otherwise, how will stakeholders know what they're looking at? You might need to shift any existing visualizations out of the way to create some space for the header. I'm just using the Control-A shortcut on the keyboard and dragging the existing visualizations down a little bit. To create a title, all we need to do is click on the text box here and then select anywhere towards the top of the canvas and give your report a title. I'm going to call mine World Population Analysis. It really is personal preference, but I think this title is going to be workable. Let's go ahead and resize it so that it fits the width of the canvas and make it relatively deep as well. We can always adjust this in a moment. Now let's go ahead and select the text, change it to say size 44. Next, let's make the header center aligned. And I'm going to change the background color to say dark blue here. It really is personal preference. Before we continue, let's make sure that the font color contrasts well. I'm going to make it white now. And let's now click away. You'll see that we can probably make this header a little bit narrower. And let's now reposition our charts so that they fit neatly beneath the title. You'll notice the red outline appear as I'm dragging and dropping. This essentially helps us create consistency between our chart sizing. It kind of acts like a grid. Okay, things are really starting to take shape now. However, what if we want to add another suite of reports to our Google Data Studio project? The space that we have here to the right-hand side might not be big enough. Or we may want to have a set of visualizations that are country specific. Well, this is quite easy to address by creating a new page. To do this, simply click on Add Page from the top of the screen, and a new canvas has been created for us. Let's go ahead and give our canvases names. The second page, we may want to call something like Country Level. And the first page, let's run with a title such as Summary Level. Okay, if we click on the second page now, we don't have a header. Rather than going to all this effort of recreating it, let's go back to our first page, select the header, and I'm just using the Control-C shortcut on the keyboard, clicking on the second page, selecting the canvas, and then Control-V to paste. Let's just resize it so that it fits at the very top of the screen. And I'm actually going to append a second part to the title, World Population Analysis Country Level. And for consistency, let's go back to our first page and update the title to Summary Level. Excellent. Toggling between report pages is as easy as selecting the numbered icons here on the left-hand side. I suggest you take the time to play around with Google Data Studio's design features. I'm sure you'll find something to your liking. You may already be comfortable with adding filters to your charts. These are one of many controls available in Google Data Studio. But to make sure that they're set up correctly, we need to do a little bit of tinkering. Otherwise, we may have charts updating that we don't want to, or vice versa. So make sure that you're on the country level page, which will look like this, and we're going to add a new control. Actually, before we do that, let's just make this header a little bit smaller to create some space for the filter. Now let's click on the blank space, select Add a Control, and we want a drop-down list. Let's drop it in the blank space that we've just created, and resize accordingly. Okay, before we do anything else, let's right-click the filter, and I want to draw your attention to this section here called Make Report Level. If we go ahead and select this, it will apply the filter to all charts on all pages. Now this can be really useful in some circumstances, but given we only want this country level page to be updated when using the filter, let's not make any changes here. Okay, let's put this filter to the test. Make sure that you go to View Mode, click on the drop-down list next to Country, deselect all, and either find, or let's type in Australia for example, and select it. Click away from the filter, and just like that, all data on this page reflects only the data for Australia. Not only that, the GeoChart has responded accordingly. Now, as a default, the country filter is set up to allow multiple selections. So for example, if we go back to it and type in, say, New Zealand, the visualizations and data have been updated to aggregate both countries together. Look, in my experience, this isn't overly useful. So let's go ahead and edit the filter to allow only a single selection. To do this, go ahead and select Style, and make sure you enable Single Select by clicking the checkbox here. And now, you'll only be able to select a single country. To prove this, let's go to View, click on the drop-down box once more, and you'll see that we can only select a single country. On this occasion, let's go ahead and select India, for example, and then select it. And you'll notice that all charts have been updated automatically to show only the data for India. Excellent work. I want to spend a few moments talking about formatting. If you're like me and love working with data and analytics, then formatting probably doesn't seem like the most exciting part of your work. But trust me, spending just a few moments on polishing your project can make a world of difference when it comes to impressing your stakeholders. What you're looking at is a completed Google Data Studio report showing world population stats between 2005 and 2014. We have a summary page here with a couple of visualizations, but we also have a more detailed page that shows us country-specific data. This looks really good to me, but I think we can make it even more appealing. Just make sure that you're in edit mode before continuing. I want to start by removing the values that display here in our filter, because they add absolutely no value to the report. Luckily, it's super easy to do. With the filter selected, simply deselect Show Values. And if we go back to our filter once more, you'll notice that they don't appear anymore. Awesome. The other thing I think we should do is make the filter formatting consistent with the header. So with the filter selected still, go ahead and select the Style tab, And then scroll down to where you can see the background and border. And let's change the background to blue. And then scroll up. And let's change the text to white. Now the other thing I think we could do here is make the font slightly larger. So let's select the drop-down box here and change it from 14 to font size 18. Excellent. Now if we go back to view mode, you'll see that things are already looking a lot better now. The other thing that I think is worthwhile looking at is the chart color scheme. You'll see that we have two time series charts, both with blue lines. Let's go ahead and change the second one to make it stand out more. To do this, go back to edit mode, select the second time series chart, then click on style, and change the line color from blue to say red. Excellent work. Now, there's a ton more that you can do here, but this should leave you feeling super excited by the opportunities that Google Data Studio formatting can provide for you. The true value of cloud-based services such as Google Data Studio lies in the ability to collaborate. In particular, I'm talking about sharing your work with others, and Google Data Studio makes this both simple and powerful. At the top of your screen, you'll notice a large share button. If you go ahead and click on this, you'll be presented with a dialog box to send the report to collaborators. All you have to do here is type in the email address of the user or users that you wish to have access to your Google Data Studio project, and then select whether or not you want the recipient to have view access or edit access. I'm going to leave view access selected, and I'll also leave the checkbox notify people enabled, and then go ahead and click on send. It really is that easy. I should add, you can only add people with email addresses managed by Google. Now in some cases, this may be problematic, but don't worry, there are a couple of other options that we have to work with. To the right hand side of the share button, there's a drop down box. Go ahead and click on it, and then select Get Report link. All you need to do now is copy this link and send to intended recipients from your external email application, such as say Gmail, Outlook, and the like. Lastly, if all else fails, you can always go ahead and download a static version of the report as a PDF, and then once again, send it to recipients from your email application. It really is that easy. If you've been collaborating for a while, you may have lost track of who has access to your work. Luckily with Google Data Studio, it's super easy to review this and update permissions as necessary. So with your project open, go ahead and click on the Share button at the top of the screen, and then click on the Manage Access tab, and you'll see a list of folks who have access to your work. If there's a specific individual who has access that you want to update, simply click on the drop-down box next to their name and either update or remove their access. You'll also notice that I have link sharing set up. This means that anyone who has access to this link will be able to see my work. You'll notice that they only have view access, so this is a relatively safe thing to have enabled. I could always restrict access to say anyone in my domain, or I could even broaden it to include anyone on the internet that can find and view my project. This one would be super risky, so I'm actually going to leave the option anyone with the link can view selected, and let's go ahead and click on save. Whilst we're at it, I'm actually going to apply restrictions to collaborators being able to modify user privileges and also from downloading the report. To do this, simply click on the checkbox here to the left of Prevent Editors from Changing Access, and also disable downloading, printing, and copying for viewers. This just applies another layer of restrictions to other users. Once again, let's go ahead and click on Save, and then click on Close. And just like that, you've successfully reviewed and updated user permissions in Google Data Studio. I sincerely want to thank you for watching this course. You're well on the way towards becoming a Google Data Studio expert. By now, you should feel well on top of the Google Data Studio process of taking data and enhancing it, building interactive reports, and then preparing them for external consumption. I truly would have loved to cover every feature of Google Data Studio, but there's only so much that can be packaged into an introductory course. So to truly crystallize your learnings, I strongly recommend that you create your own Google Data Studio project from scratch, using some of your own high-quality source data. Now, if you don't have access to much in the way of data, then that's okay. Why not see what you can find on data.gov or the equivalent in your region? Or perhaps just use one of the sample datasets provided by Google. I truly hope that you feel confident in taking the next step. Thanks again for watching.